Hey, this is Andrew Aversa with Impact Soundworks, and today I'm really excited to show 5 new additions to the Shreddage 3 family of virtual instruments. Last year, we debuted the Shreddage 3 engine, and since then, we've been building on it with new features, bug fixes, generally making it an even better platform for all of our guitars and basses going forward. And we wanted to expand this, starting with our most popular previous instruments, Shreddage Bass 2, Archtop, the original Shreddage 2, S2 IBZ, and S2 SRP, taking all of those and upgrading them to the S3 engine. What you're looking at here, Shreddage 3 Abyss, is the upgrade of Shreddage Bass 2. I love the sound of this library. It's such a versatile bass tone, and we've kept that tone here. And that's just a completely clean tone. And even if you don't want to touch any of these new editing features, mapping features, you're already getting the benefits of the S3 engine because the voicing, the fretting, and basically just the performance that you get out of these instruments is more realistic than ever. Just like Stratus, this interface is going to look very familiar. We've got the improved fret stuff at the bottom, for example, picking different modes of fretting. We've got the capo, which you can just drag right and left. So for example, if I put it up here, you've got the easy multi-tracking. So from one track here, 2 tracks, it's never going to phase with itself, all the way up to quad tracking. We've got the poly input feature, which is a way of making your performances and especially your chords more realistic by adding a little look ahead window. Most of these I've covered in the Shreddage 3 Stratus video, so if you want to learn more about that, I would suggest watching that video. All of these new instruments feature Console, which is our built-in modular effects rack and mixer. For any guitar that has multiple pickups, you get multiple channels here, and then each of these insert slots or master slots has up to 30 different effects that you can select from. We've got pedals, amps, cabinets, which range from classic stuff on and off access to ribbon and dynamic microphones, just an enormous variety of tones. But rather than create one from scratch, I'll show you each of these new instruments in the S3 family has a set of custom-made snapshots that we've added. And with Tact 2.0, you can manipulate all these articulations however you'd like. So here I've just been playing the sustain articulation, but we've also got staccatos built in, which you could put on higher velocities, for example. We've got pops, which are sort of like a pre-attack articulation, adding more emphasis. Let's say we wanted to set this to high velocities only. We could have this at, just 110 and up. Let's get that extra pop in there. Harmonics, which sound beautiful with this instrument. There are no external plugins being used. This is all internal. Now, moving on, we've got Shreddage 3 Archtop. Archtop is one of our most popular, not just guitar instruments, but one of our most popular releases ever. So we're really excited to have these recordings in the S3 engine. We actually went back to the original guitar recording setup and the performer, Josh Workman, to get even more samples into this. For example, we got some rakes, more chokes, as well as more levels of palm mutes, which is something the original Archtop did not have. what you're hearing there in those chords that you're seeing is a result of the poly input feature I was talking about. Poly input adds a slight latency, but in exchange, it makes the voicings much more realistic when you're playing chords either on the keyboard or if you're sequencing chords in your DAW. If I were to turn this off and I were to play, sometimes the engine gets it right, but not always. And that's because as a human being that's not able to perfectly play the keyboard, sometimes I play the notes in the wrong order. Poly input lets you get around all that. And really the only trade-off is just a little bit of latency. So what you could do is if you're performing live, you could turn off poly input. And then once it's time to render the track, you could turn it back up and you'll get more realistic voicings. And those strums that you're hearing are the new strumming engine, which Archtop had a very primitive implementation of this, but our new strumming mode is just way, way better. When strum on poly input is enabled, then when I play a chord within that window, you hear a strum. And it's always going to sound great. The speed here is mapped to velocity, but we could change this to a CC. And basically, if I play soft, then I'm going to get a nice slow strum. And if I play hard, then I'm going to get a much faster strum. Archtop has its own set of very useful articulations, which are different than bass and different from our metal guitars as well. We've got palm mutes, which, like I mentioned, we have more layers of these now. And then power chords. Another new addition in the Shreddage 3 version. This is going to sound very different if you use the other pickup or you do a custom blend. And two types of harmonics in this instrument, natural ones and artificial. Now let's look at some of the sounds that are included with Shreddage 3 Archtop. For example, the lightly warm and clean is on all the guitars. And with a different pickup, again, that's going to sound pretty different. And hey, you can even do metal on an Archtop if you want. Oh, and by the way, that line noise can be turned off, of course. You can just decrease the line noise knob right here. Now let's move on to Jupiter, and this is an upgrade of the original Shreddage 2 Absolute Electric Guitar. This has some of the chunkiest palm mutes you can possibly imagine. It's got a full and rich tone, 7 strings, and that sounds just fantastic multi-tracked as well. So here's the clean tone. But that's not what you want to hear. You want to hear the metal stuff. So let's check that out. And going to quad tracking and checking out some of the other sounds. And you saw that that slide was not exactly realistic in terms of where the fret positioning was, but that's just a feature that you can enable and disable. Then we've got the bite control, which takes away some of the darkness of the tone. And just to show kind of before and after, here's the clean tone without any bite. And we can add more bite. Truly huge and badass instrument. But there's some other kinds of presets here too. It's not all super high gain stuff. And just like with Abyss, we have the shred offset here, which you can adjust. Moving on, we've got Rogue, and this is an upgrade of Shreddage 2 IBZ. Rogue has a very aggressive and biting sound, making it, again, perfect for heavy rock, metal, and so I'm just going to jump right in after showing a little bit of the clean sound. You can hear already that that has just a very different timbre than Jupiter. It's pretty much the polar opposite, and it's a different guitar, different 7-string altogether. And all the noises that you're hearing with all of these instruments are completely adjustable. You can use these articulations here in the tack tab. So for pitched power chords, which is what we're using here, you can really emphasize that string release or turn it off. Personally, I think for realistic performances, you definitely want to have both unpitched and pitched release noise. Some great sweep picking there, now possible with the sweep fretting mode selection. And then lastly, of these new instruments, we've got Shreddage 3 Serpent, which of course would be S2 SRP. This is another 7-string guitar, but it's not nearly as dark as the original Shreddage 2, now called Jupiter, and it also has a lot more body to it than IBZ, which is now called Rogue. So Serpent is the most well-rounded of our 7-strings. Let's check out some of these presets. And that's just a small look of what you get with these new Shreddage 3 instruments: Abyss, Archtop, Jupiter, Rogue, and Serpent. They're contact player and fully NKS compatible with all the snapshots, the light guide, all that other good stuff. If you have the original versions of these libraries, you have a very, very discounted upgrade price. These actually don't replace the old instruments, they're new, so this won't interfere with your old projects at all, and you can upgrade for a very low price. If you have a Shreddage 3 instrument already, like Stratus, and you want to cross-grade to one of these, so let's say Stratus was the first instrument you have, and you want to pick up Archtop, then there's also a cross-grade price for you as well, and you can read more about that on our site or in the video description. We think that these Shreddage 3 instruments are the finest guitars and basses that you can get your hands on, and we hope that they'll inspire many, many tracks to come. I also hope you look forward to more S3 guitars and basses, ones that aren't upgrades or anything like that, but all new instruments that are going to be joining this family later in the year and in the years to come. This has been lead developer Andrew Aversa, and I'll see you next time.